live to the campaign headquarters now. I want to check in with Paul Murray, Sharri Markson at Peter Dutton's campaign, also Laura and Chris. Paul and Sharri, first to you. What's your read of the results as they stand?
Well, it is just a trickle. It is hundreds of votes, and I know that greater brains than mine and the computing power and the collective expertise that is gathered here is starting to see the potential of a trend. But again, as we were discussing before, Sharri, the reality here is that the Liberal Party is very clear about why the first hour might be different than the second hour.
Exactly. So the Liberal Party is very conscious of making the point that these trends that we might be seeing so far do not count the pre-polling. Pre-polling is expected to heavily favour the coalition. That's not going to be counted until after today's vote. As you know, we've had probably a near record number of people voting before today. So that trend might shift. And the other thing that we're starting to hear now is just the impact that the public polling has had throughout the campaign. You know, it really gave Labor momentum. It favoured them. That became a media narrative. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, this idea that Albanese had picked up that Dutton was running a bad campaign. But at the end of the day, the Libs feel that a number in the mid-60s would be respectable. I mean, you've got to remember, the government has only changed 3 times since 2000. We've only had a change of government 3 times, 2007, 2013 and 2022. And in fact, the government of the day has only changed 9 times since 1930. So this is a rare occurrence. We're probably not going to see that tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the sense of the early trends is obvious here, which is even on the slivers of data, hard to find where the positive point is. I've heard the conversations about early stuff out of Wannon that the panel's been discussing. But another thing worth mentioning, and I know Tom just referenced it, but the One Nation factor is really interesting here, okay? So the last federal election, they were... In these early trickles, they are at 10% of the national vote right now. This matters because, of course, they are not sending their preferences on a long journey back to an eventual choice between Liberal and Labor. In many key seats, and certainly in the Senate, a much closer expectation of preferences being swapped very early. Now, to give you an idea, in New South Wales, One Nation is currently at about 7 and a bit, almost 8%. That's up on the last election. In Victoria, now, this is a really interesting factor that right now One Nation running at 10%, huge uplift as to where it was at the last election. The expectation there is that that is going to be one of those stories about those outer suburban areas, that maybe you're not going to go straight from the Labor Party to the Liberal Party. Maybe you're going to go via One Nation, but then if you're going to turn around and follow a how to vote card, the preferences start to go back. Also, Queensland, the One Nation vote currently at 11%, and Tasmania, where the battle for that Senate seat will be discussed in a couple of hours' time, they're currently running at 7%.